Henrik Karlsson writes the Substack Escaping Flatland, and he's one of my favorite online writers. I've linked to some of his best essays, in my opinion, below for those of you who are unfamiliar with his work. This is a short excerpt from a longer recording that I did with Henrik. Initially, the prompt was going to be how he uses software in his essay writing process, but it ended up being a much broader discussion. So I decided to cut the pertinent parts here for those who are just interested in the software. Now, at the risk of putting words in Henrik's mouth, I also just want to caveat something here. Henrik talks about his organic, unstructured approach, but I think it's evident from his decade of note-taking and writing experience that he's built up systems and understanding of the tools that enables him to use it freely for his own purposes. And I think that's important because it might just be like, oh, you can just go and do this off the bat. It does take a little bit of a learning curve, I think. But nonetheless, it's also inspiring to see that you don't have to have perfect structure or a perfect system in order to actually get to good output. So here is the excerpt from our video.
I think it's easy to overestimate the software side. I mean, I do use a lot, and I'm like, yeah, it's like the thing I talked about earlier. Like, I don't have smartphones. Like, I've never had a smartphone. Like, so I'm very sort of selective. With certain things, I'm very early on, and certain things I'm like smartphone. I'm extremely late on, and like, but like with LLMs, for example, I was very early instead. So I find tools very interesting to play around with. But like, the more I work, the more I realize it's just about doing the work. Like I used to structure my notes super cleanly and stuff like that. But like, you get to a certain point and where you realize it's basically just a force of your personality. Like, I just have to submit to my nature, and I use Obsidian, and I throw all kinds of shit there. There's no structure, but it's kind of this just in time. I just try to spend as little time as possible thinking about that stuff or thinking about formatting or anything, right? Like, because I want to have that's opportunity cost, right? Thinking about, I want to have just enough structure that it's likely that I can find my way back and like resurface things, but nothing more than that because I don't have time, right?
Yeah.
So I've definitely seen the evolution of my writing in that way. There's just used to be kind of top down, thought out, like the way I structured my notes, and now it's very much kind of organic, and the entire kind of layout of how I structure it just evolves all the time depending on my needs. Where I'll just kind of restructure everything. Usually, just make a new note and start linking things, and because this is the way I want to approach what I'm doing right now. So I'm just gonna do a new. That's one of the things I like about using some Obsidian is that it's very easy to make sort of a new interface. So if my way of thinking about what I'm doing changes, I'll just make a new note and this is my new start page, and I'm restructuring that.
And do you link your notes quite like densely, or do you say related notes at the bottom and then just like create all the links, or do you have like a Zettelkasten approach, or what's your?
I mean, pragmatically speaking, most what I do right now, like goes, I'll have like a page with essay ideas, and that's sort of my homepage, and then I have maybe 70 essays or essay ideas that I'm working on, and those become sort of the rooms that things connect to, and then if I get bored by something, I'll just delete it. Like, so it's chaotic in that way. So I don't try to keep like everything organized. So like, there's a lot of orphans like of essays that I just got bored, and then I just made them an orphan, and then I have like writing notes and stuff in other places. But just, yeah, it's very much like, yeah. So there is like an old part of my system which is very structured and organized. But like, I notice like when I'm working with time pressure and trying to optimize, it's just interesting to see what structure kind of evolves organically from my needs as I kind of, oh, Jesus, where to find this? Oh, that's really important. I'm going to just link it here because that's where I'm usually at on Tuesdays. Like, so it's just, there's no system. Like, it's nothing I could
Mm.
like explain to someone else. It's just, I guess it's like I'm trying to use the software in a very sort of agentic way and being very sort of introspective about like what are my needs and my intentions, and being very clear about like I don't have to follow a system or anything. I can change it depending on my needs, and being sort of agentic and open-minded about like, because the software is so flexible. It's just you can have any system or structure. So there's no point in like following a system if that system is not like perfectly aligned what I'm doing, so I'll just tweak it, and then my goals will change, and I'll tweak it again. Like it's.
Yeah.
But I mean, that probably comes from like I know how to do saddle castane and stuff like that, and I've been having various note-taking systems for maybe a decade. So I have a lot of experience that gives me a lot of templates that I can pull on. But I try to be very kind of brutal and chaotic about it and follow my needs.
It reminds me of something which I think Andy Matushak says, like note taking, or people who make videos or content on note taking software often have or don't have a serious context of use. And I
Yeah,
think that's why, like, I am trying to publish more writing because it's such a good forcing mechanism to actually think about like different ways of structuring it. But as you say, like it's sort of, mine is like much messier than other people's systems, like, perfect Zettelkasten and numbering, whatever. I don't do that. Like, I just have like essay ideas as well, lots of drafts, lots of tags, so I can like find things again. I often just use search just to like find the keyword. Like, I used to have all
yeah,
these queries, which looks up all the ideas nicely and I could filter them. Now I'm just like using search a lot more.
yeah,
So
yeah. I search all the time, and yeah, I mean, yeah, I probably I do a lot of the things. I'm fairly good at linking together and stuff to create paths, but just like not in a very systematic way. But it's interesting what you're saying about like having a serious context of use, because it's interesting to see what happens to my note taking system when I apply the force of a very serious context of use, like when I'm kind of escalating how much I write and like the pressures I put on that, like it becomes like a definitely like a pressure field that goes through my systems and all the tools I use, and they are like forced to fold around that because there's so much urgency in what I'm doing that the tools just kind of have to bend to that, and that it's useful to have tools that are easy to bend when you do that. But what you end up with looks like nothing like the rigorous kind of top-down systems. And then, of course, connects back to unfolding because it's about the context. Like, because you can't design a good note-taking system if you do not have a serious context, because it's the context and the force field of your needs in the context that it's going to tell you what the right design is. And if you don't have a serious context of use, you can't design something, like, because a note-taking system is a project that you design to solve a problem. And if you don't have a problem, like,
yeah,
you're trying to build, like, and how do you know if this is the right, like, you with design, like, should I have tags or should I have a index or whatever? Like, how do you know if you don't know what your problem is? Like, you have to know what the problem you're solving, otherwise you can't, but as soon as you have something that's like a really urgent, serious problem you're trying to solve, like the system, you'll kind of screaming and kicking kind of start folding itself and
yeah.
shaping it into something, and it will look more like a rainforest, because it's organic.
So that's really the nugget from the longer conversation. I think it's more of an inspiration to not overthink the systems and actually just get stuck in with doing the work. If you are interested in the longer conversation, it's also available on this channel and I'll link it below. And if you're interested in supporting Henrik's work, take a look at his Substack where you can turn on paid subscriptions. It really has been a worthwhile subscription for me. Thanks so much for watching.